Hey, what's going on out there in the radio land? This is your boy, Pastor Jeff, and I would like to say thank you for tuning in to our broadcast on today. Look, we have a special guest in the house, a real good friend of mine for a long time, and I'm glad that that she is a part of our program, and prayerfully, hopefully, that she will be continually be a part of our program from this day moving forward. Amen, somebody?
Amen.
Amen. On the panel, on the set with us, we got our boy, Brother Marlon. How you doing, sir?
Doing well, sir.
And again, you got Mama E still in the house with us. Mama E gonna be with us for a minute. So Mama E, how you doing over there?
I'm doing real good, thanks.
Thank you for hanging around with us. And our special guest is in the house is our sister, my real good friend. She's an educator, a mother, a child of God. She has a many hats.
All right.
What's up, Marguerite?
Hello, Jeff.
How are you? I'm doing well. Let me ask you something. When you got that call when you saw me, when I gave you a call, what you thought about? We were like, what's going on? Why is he calling me?
That's exactly it. What are you up to now? What can I do for you? No, I was excited. I was excited. I know it was something good because we had such a blast the last time I was here. And I just enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. I love sharing.
Yes, and that you do well. I know one of your passion is an educator, but you love people.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, and that's one of your reputation that many people that I know that know you, first thing that they say is, oh, she loves people. Yeah. And if she feels somebody being mistreated, oh, Lord. And it's good that people have a voice. Someone will speak on their behalf when they don't want to speak up for themselves. Mm-hmm. You know, God will put people like that in our path. So Marguerite Richards, she has a master's degree. She's a diabetic educator, and I thank God for her because I ask a lot of questions about being a diabetic or a border diabetic, and she's full of information, full of knowledge, and she will challenge you. She don't mind popping you on the back of the hand and say, "Don't do that again." So, Marguerite, how you doing?
I'm doing well.
So, those who are listening to us right now, who is Marguerite Richards?
Well, like you said, I'm an educator. I've been an educator for 25 years, started off in the public school system, transitioned to the community college, and I've been there for 20 years. During that time, I was teaching anatomy and physiology, and my students kept saying, well, you've told us all these horrible things. What's the treatment? And I thought, well, I know some of the treatments, but I don't know all the treatments. Maybe I should go back to school. So I did. My students actually encouraged me. And wow,
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So I became the student, and I went back to school and earned a Bachelor's of Science in Nursing from a local university here. And I continued to teach. I never gave up teaching. I said I wasn't giving up my first love. And so I had many roles as a nurse. And then eventually I wound up in diabetes education because my mother-in-law was diagnosed as a diabetic and had a very poor experience at a local hospital. Mm-hmm. And I was insulted because I worked at that hospital at the time. And I knew the exemplary nursing care that was provided. But in terms of education, she really lacked that. And God put it upon my heart, you need to become a diabetes educator. So it was a few years, and I found other people who were educators, and I said, well, how do you do that? What happens? And the opportunity presented itself, and I had a friend who worked at the hospital where I currently work now. I gave him a call, and I said, hey, I want this position. I just applied for it. And he said, give me 20 minutes. Next 20? Thing I knew, 20 minutes. Next thing I knew, about 20 minutes later, he says, come in on Tuesday, do the interview. And I received the job. And like I tell my husband, I said, I get out of bed every morning to do what I love. That is teaching and being a nurse. And I always say on my tombstone, you put wife, mother, and nurse, even though I'm a cell biologist too. And I said, but you put that down because those are all the things that I am. And when I'm not nursing and I'm not teaching, I'm taking care of my husband and my two boys. Yes. And I always tell my students, listen, don't call me in the evening because you're going to hear me ordering Wendy's for my kids, or you're going to hear someone asking mommy for help. You know, it's great to have all these titles, but at the end of the day, to them, I'm just mommy. Yeah. So I had to give a lecture this morning, and I said, "I'm so sorry, class, that I was late, but I had to go buy milk." So I'm all of those things. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is I serve a wonderful Savior, and I'm His child, and He is who keeps me grounded. And I probably 20 times a day I'm saying, "Oh Lord."
How you juggle? How you juggle wife, mother, nursing, and teaching? Just add that too.
Yeah, I have a calendar. I have a calendar.
It's probably glued to you.
Yeah, and I have to take time away and say, okay, I can't do this today. This just can't be done today. And I have a wonderful group of ladies who work as my babysitters, so they do help me out quite a bit. I have a very active husband too, so I can't leave him out because he's picking up the kids, dropping them off. He's very much involved too, so I'm not alone.
As a educator, I know you have a lot of information, and I was looking on the internet just last night, and I saw something coming across that diabetes is had increased in the past year. To my understanding, it's like in every household it used to be 1 out of 5. Now it's possibly 2 to 3 out of 5 diabetes in the home. How close of a true statement is that?
That's very true. We have a lot of chemicals that are put in our foods that we're not, aware of. So people have sensitivities to carbohydrates, and they may not be aware of it. A lot of times people get the early diagnosis. You are pre-diabetic, you're borderline, and it just frightens them, and they never follow up with their doctor. They're never aggressive enough to say, let's keep an eye on this. Let's do something. Let's make those changes. We do see it begin to creep in with children.
Now, you took the word out of my mouth. I know back in the day, even now, I'm from Greenville, South Carolina, and in the country, and my parents still have a garden in the back. So back in the day, our grandparents and great-grandparents used to live off the land.
That's right.
If you want something to eat, you're going in that garden, or you're going to wring one of them chicken necks, and you don't have all these chemicals that's injecting into our food and into our veggies and everything else. So you could tell by different generation because of all this processed stuff that we are eating now.
Right.
Has something to do of that increase of that number?
Oh, sure. I always tell people, we like it quick, fast, and hot. Yeah. We love the microwave. And when I grew up, we didn't have a microwave. Your mom put it in the oven, or she cooked it on the stovetop. And again, growing a garden. I grew up in New Jersey, but my mother's Southern, and so we had a garden too. And then we come to Florida, and they'd say, "Oh, I want chicken for lunch." Great, go catch it. And I love that. So I always knew where my food came from. So you're right. We have to think differently. I always say, eat clean. And when you go to the grocery store, you walk around the periphery. And actually, our dietitians do a lot of that education for us, but I have to include that in my talk. So I talk to my patients about, first you have to accept the diagnosis, and then don't see it as a curse or, oh my gosh, what did I do wrong? Some things we just had no control over. It might be in your, genetic makeup. It may be the food. It could be the lifestyle, because I have a sedentary job too. I see my patients. I go back to my office. I sit down. So I have to be conscious of get up and move. Get up and walk.
Wait a minute now. Before we go any further, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. No. I want to go back to eat clean.
Eat clean, yeah. Okay, yes. So eating clean, when you go to the store, you want to be looking for things that you would have grown in your garden. If you don't have time to grow a garden, get those fresh collard greens, get the broccoli, the cabbage, meats that have not been frozen. If you can get to a place where they're processing the meat pretty quickly and they've not been frozen, you want to eat fresh as much as you possibly can. Leave the canned things alone. If you can steam your vegetables, that's great. But don't always put things in a microwave. That actually kills
nutrients.
Kills your nutrients.
Yes,
yeah, so use a steamer. And then just get it fresh every day, if you can. If not, I know you have to freeze your vegetables.
So, Marguerite, you're saying that canned veggies,
High in sodium.
High in sodium, because they got to keep the sodium in there to try to keep it fresh as long as possible.
Yes.
So you purchase the veggies that's in the bag.
Yeah, you can steam
A lot of people
those.
don't realize that is much healthier
Yes,
than
you can.
in the cans.
Right, like the frozen.
Yeah.
Frozen vegetables and
Yeah,
stuff.
you
Yes.
can do that and steam those, or some of them you can steam in the microwave, but they're not in the microwave too long. But you have options.
I've heard the best way to shop is to shop on the outer
That's
aisles,
at the periphery,
and not in the junk is in the middle.
That's
Everything
right.
good is on the outside. That's right. Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
Okay,
That's
so
right.
eating clean,
Eating clean.
be mindful
Yeah.
of the things that we are purchasing. I heard you mention the last time when you were on the television show that we should be doing labels.
Yeah, reading your food labels.
Reading that's why you're reading the food labels.
Yeah.
Because you'd be surprised what's in there.
Yes. You don't want a lot of things that have a lot of added sugars, and you want to look at the caloric intake. There's things that we like to eat, like Otis Spunkmeyer muffins. I love to use this as an example.
What is it?
The Otis Spunkmeyer muffins, the big muffins.
Yes.
Everyone's like, "Ooh, this muffin's just for me." No, if you actually look at the muffin, it's a third of it is a serving. So you're actually supposed to take that muffin and divide it into thirds and share it with 2 friends. Stop being
Really?
selfish.
Wow.
Yeah, so I use that as an
you
example.
can't eat that by yourself, huh?
No.
It's interesting. I was trying to read labels as well, and I thought I'll buy multigrain bread. This is just this week, as a matter of fact. I'm not going to buy white bread. I'll buy multigrain bread. But then when I looked at it, the carbs were higher on the multigrain than on the white. And if I'm counting carbs for the diabetes, not so much for losing weight. But when I looked at that, I thought, well, this is deceptive, because if I'm going to eat bread and I'd rather have the white, then buying the multigrain was actually worse. And, and so until I started reading labels, you really would think, just by looking at stuff that tells you it's low in this and it's healthy and it's light,
Yeah.
and then you read it and you realize it's not so light after all. So it's real easy to get discouraged when you're trying to do good. Evil is always present.
Always present, because when you go back and check your numbers, you're like, what happened?
What happened?
I was reading the labels.
I think too, a lot of times is like you can read the label, but still not really understand
What you read.
what it is
What
you're
it is.
reading. Like I remember years ago when I was looking at labels, it might say 19% something, and my grand scheme of things, 19% of 100% ain't really that bad.
Right.
So you have to really know, what you're reading and understand it. I mean, it's one thing to just look at it and say that, okay, yeah, I read the label, but you really got to understand what it is that you're reading.
Right, and for new diabetics, we give them a lot of resources. They do meet with a dietitian. I will sit and talk to them about what's considered acceptable, what their needs are. And so when you're reading it, is it 19% of the daily recommended allowance? Well, you probably need more than that, if it's dependent on what the range is. So we do give a lot of assistance with that. And then USDA, U.S. Department of Agriculture, always puts out the new labels. Every year, just go USDA.gov, and you can find a food label, and they're very good about health literacy. They break it down for you.
Okay.
And I always tell people, if they're one of my direct patients at the local hospital, call me, because I'm a free resource even after you've been discharged.
Oh,
For
really?
additional information.
I forgot about that, Margaret.
Yeah, I always give them my number, and they can just call my office, and they can get additional information.
That's good.
Okay, we're talking about diabetics, pre-diabetic, borderline diabetic, diabetes 1, diabetes 2. And we got Marguerite Richards in the house. She's a diabetic educator. And when we come back after this break, we're going to dive into what's the difference between type 1 and type 2 diabetes. Then we're going to want to dive into what is the process once we were diagnosed as a diabetic. So we got to take a quick break, so we'll be right back. And I'm your boy, Pastor Jeff, and we'll talk with you in a few minutes. We'll be right back.
What's your plan?
More time with the grandkids.
Staying healthy. Celebrating more happy birthdays.
Care Plus can help you make it happen. We've spent 20 years specializing in Medicare Advantage plans, and with our plans, you get benefits like a $75 reduction on your Medicare Part B premium every month with the Carefree plan, or a $0 copay for routine dental coverage plus partial or complete dentures with the Care One plan, plus a $0 copay for routine hearing and vision coverage, and a $40 monthly allowance for covered over-the-counter products. All from the third largest Medicare HMO plan in Florida. The Medicare annual enrollment period ends December 7th. Call today. So, what's your plan? At Care Plus, we've got plans for you.
Closet is having an amazing prom sale with the latest styles in formal wear and shoes. Name brands like Stacey Adams, Steve Harvey, Falcone, Kango, and more. 2 suits for $100. Linen sets $44.99 and up. Sports jackets $59.99 and up. Shoes $19.99 and up. Great specials for spring and prom at Men's Closet on Lim Turner Road and our new location on Blanding Boulevard.
Going around to have John removed from the church. What? I thought you knew. It's been circulating for like 2 weeks now. Sunday was the final straw.
Megan, come on, don't do Josh. Guys, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
John, the folks around here just don't understand your method of celebrating.
You know, you really embarrassed the kids this time.
Are you embarrassed? I can't help it. I mean, when I feel the spirit, it just flows out of me.
Why can't he be like normal dads?
That's not how God made him.
All that running around and screaming and hollering.
So you're putting me out of the church?
I'm tired of moving.
I promise I won't do it again. Right? I'll control it.
Son, this is a good thing. It's a promotion for you.
I
can't believe you won't stay and meet Pastor Carson.
Now, how embarrassing is this? The bishop's gonna send down a white pastor to a black church.
So, who are you here with?
I'm your new pastor.
I'm not on board with this at all, and I am going to do everything in my power to get him voted out of here. And as it turns out, you are at the wrong church. Robert, you ready to take over the church?
You still banned.
Basketball. Anybody play basketball? I'm not Jehovah's Witness, okay?
Hallelujah. Put your hands together. How do you know that God would answer when you call him? You just need to open up your mouth and bless the Lord and believe him. I know that God would answer. I believe in witness he will. Don't you worry. Don't you worry.
Our message today is fornication is a sin against the body.
You know, over the past 6 months, we've lost 293 members.
How do we get the members to come back to the church?
How can I fix this?
First of all, by going to God on bended knee and asking his forgiveness.
Hey, did you, see who tripped me?
My doctor is Dr. Sam, and I love this lady. This lady here, she is fantastic, you know. She takes the time out with her patient. I know she takes the time with me, make me feel special. I had called her not too long ago because I was sick, you know, feeling bad. And she called me and she treated me in the office. She took good care of me, and I tell you, and I was back, you know, twice a week, but I didn't mind because better than being in a hospital. The staff, they are wonderful. As you walk in the door, you are greeted with nothing but smiles. I see smiles, you know, they put a smile on my face, you know, making me feel better just by smiling.
You're listening to JBV Radio. Positive Radio.
Oh yeah, welcome back. Welcome back. We're still talking about diabetes, educator diabetes. It's on the set. Marguerite, thank you for being a part of this program, which is she would be having a monthly program with us. With the JBV Radio, yeah, excuse me. Also, we got a special guest that's joining our conversation is Dr. Michelle. You will also be hearing her a lot on JBV Radio. What's up, Dr. Michelle?
Hey, nice to be here.
Glad that you are here. I'm excited. Now, I'm going to dive back into the conversation about diabetes. Before we move in any further, what is the difference between a type A or type 1 diabetes and a type 2?
Type 1 typically is associated with children. They're born with the inability to produce insulin. So there's a problem with the pancreas, and that their beta cells do not produce insulin. So they will always have to have inject insulin for the rest of their lives. And those are often my most difficult patients to deal with because that's such a challenge as they grow and advance.
I can imagine.
You know, mom can do it for a long time, but the child eventually has to own it and manage on their own. So those are my challenging patients between the ages of 19 and 25. But type 2 are typically, I'm sorry.
Okay, as a child and as a diabetic, their sugar could be too high or too low.
Yes. But typically, you know, they run on the high side, especially when they get older,
okay.
because they don't want to check their sugar. They don't want to be different. So, But yeah, these children always run the risk of having hyperglycemia or having a high sugar because we always have to give them insulin. Yeah.
Okay, so I was ignorant because I heard sometimes some children, I know that diabetic with their level under 70 fall into danger.
Yeah, that's low.
That's low.
That can happen. Sometimes, oh, well, that dose didn't take it down. I'll take another dose. Then we call that stacking. And then we start to see the child slide down. So we're always worried about that.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's always a concern with both, with type 1 and type 2. We always talk about those early symptoms, knowing when the sugar's too high and when it's too low. You know, both are dangerous. I tell the patients, either one is dangerous. Both have complications and consequences. Type 2 are typically adult onset, where the poor pancreas has become exhausted. It could be from any reason, environment, genetic, the processed foods, and the poor pancreas is now exhausted, and we're not putting out as much insulin in some cases. Some cases, the cell surface receptors. That's just like thinking of if you can remember high school science, the cell, the cell has a receptor on the surface, and it identifies with insulin. Sometimes it recognizes the insulin, sometimes it doesn't. You know, sometimes it gets kind of like, I call it a foggy brain. It just doesn't recognize it. And so that without the cell recognizing the insulin, you can't have the sugar go in. So how I explain it to my patients is, think of insulin as the key that unlocks the door to your cell. And sometimes you have some rusty locks. You've got a great key, but you got rusty locks, so we can't unlock those locks, and we can't let the sugar go in. So the sugar pools in the bloodstream, and that's how we check. Oh, you have high sugar or low sugar. We identify our types 2 typically with elevated sugars, and so the sugars are higher than 200, and so that's often our key that you're a new diabetic.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So Marguerite, the theory of being overweight. Some people, which I did, I used to think most diabetic is you have to weigh about 400, 300 pounds, you know, and most of them that's overweight are the main one that really dealing with diabetes. But I'm kind of finding that ain't
That's
true.
That's not true. Because it's a multitude of things.
Well, because the first thing they say, well, you need to lose weight.
Yeah, sometimes that helps people, and that's true. What we see with obesity is insulin resistance, where now your body's like, you've just become so overweight and your body's so taxed, and you have the insulin resistance where you still have the insulin, but your body just doesn't recognize it. And it's like, what am I going to do with this? So some lifestyle changes, that's the first step anyway in managing a patient with diabetes, is a lifestyle. But every patient who's diabetic is not overweight. Like I said, there are many factors that go into it. And those are sometimes my hardest patients because there isn't any weight for them to lose.
Yes.
So it's about managing your stress, taking the medication, being aware of the complications of the disease. So we take the weight issue off the table. Mm-hmm. So it's about now looking at your foods and making sure it's not processed.
Okay.
Can I share a testimony with you?
Yes.
I was a gestational diabetic for all 3 pregnancies, and I was insulin dependent on one of them, and then the other ones were controlled with diet mostly. And then after the children, the diabetes went away, but I still had hypoglycemia. Later, I became a type 2 diabetic, and I was a type 2 diabetic for about 10 years. But I did need to lose weight, and I lost 140 pounds. And when I lost that, it has now been 15 years, and they had to write on my file resolved because I have no more signs of diabetes at all. And it has a lot to do with not just the weight loss part, but not eating the refined foods. Like when you're talking about reading labels, if you're eating refined processed foods, it's going and turning to simple sugar very quickly. But when you're eating a high grain food, you have to subtract the fiber from the carbohydrates, and it burns better. So, changing my diet completely, and obviously God, brought a healing for me personally.
That is a powerful testimony.
Yeah,
now,
great.
Yes, it is. So, Margaret, I know you have some PowerPoints and subjects that you want to touch on. Mm-hmm. What are they?
Well, the first thing I always try to get people to do is accept the diagnosis. That's always the hardest
So
part.
when I'm coming, wait a minute. So if I'm coming into your office, and these are the steps that you say we have to follow to have control.
Yes, yes.
Get a hand of them.
And you know, I always tell people it's I'll be with you for 20 minutes. But that's not true. 20 minutes is just me introducing myself and me getting to know you. It can be anywhere. I've stayed with patients as long as 45 minutes and up to 2 hours.
Oh, wow. God bless you.
Because it's a grieving process. And I want them to understand it's okay.
Grieving process.
Yeah, I call it grieving because I've just changed your life.
Absolutely.
You know, I've just walked in your room and just told you you're diabetic. And you've heard horrible things about diabetes. Yes. And you're like, not me. Nobody raises their hand to be diabetic.
No.
I said, nobody does that. Right. And I said, you really don't want to talk to me, but I'm going to empower you. That's the one thing I tell you. I'm going to empower you. You're not going to walk out of here ignorant. You're not going to walk out of here feeling like I don't have any support. I don't have a friend. I don't have a dog in the fight. You're going to be empowered. You're going to manage this. And you're going to manage it well.
Amen.
Yeah, and changing your thinking that you're not weird, you're not going to fit in, and I don't get to eat normal now, because I remember saying that to myself, I'm not going to eat normal now, when in reality, I can eat just as many wonderful tasting foods, but I have to change the way I do my diet, but that doesn't mean there's so many options out there nowadays.
Yes, my partner and I, who work in diabetes with me, we always say, you can tell we're curvy girls. And we like to eat. We're not going to tell anyone that they can't eat. So, because we've had patients come back and say, I had a plain salad for lunch. You say, why'd you do that? Right. We never told you that. We're disappointed,
So we come into your office, and the first thing we have to receive that I'm dealing with a disease that I have to deal with it.
Yeah, eventually you're going to own it. So I always say just, accept that, and however you feel today. If you're like, I'm angry, I'm shocked. Wow. What, me? Mm-hmm. I did everything right. I've been on a diet for 6 months. And, okay, that's great. But let's talk about that. So I always accept their feelings, and that's okay. I want you to have those moments. Now you've had that moment. Let's have a plan. Because the worst thing is to come in and get the diagnosis, you don't have a plan. Let's put a plan together.
Come on, Reed, you know what? I know I just cut you. I'm sorry. But I got a problem. I'm coming in, you tell me I'm a diabetic, and I got to stick myself in the stomach and the leg and the arms and all that stuff. What's up? I ain't never had to stick myself.
Right, and that's one other thing. A lot of people come in, they go, I have to be on insulin. And I tell them, I said, it's for 90 days because you get a report card if you're a diabetic. There's a test that's done every 3 months by your primary physician, and it's called the A1C. Right. And if you can stay at 7 or below, then we could just talk about lifestyle. So I always tell them insulin's not forever, except for type 1s, I'm sorry. But I've heard incredible testimonials too, where they're off insulin. But that's a story for a different day.
Okay.
We can put up a plan in 90 days. Let's see if you can get down to 7%. But it takes some lifestyle, it takes some real work. But I say you're doing what's best for you. These next 90 days, you're going to take the best care of you that you've ever done in the past. So you get a new you. You get a brand new you.
Okay, so I'm sitting in front of you, after I went through the grieving process.
Yeah.
Then what? You gonna give me a list what I can eat and what not to eat? Do I need to go join the gym or something? Do I gotta run 10 miles a day?
As a nurse, I explain first of all the science. You have to picture what is happening to your body. So I talk about the rusty locks. I talk about the insulin. I talk about what you need. Now everyone doesn't go on insulin. Some people have oral medication. Some folks it's just lifestyle. And it just depends on you. What data I have. I've had to tell people, well, you're 6.5. You're newly diagnosed. You could lose 10 pounds or at least 10% of your body weight. Maybe let's start talking about leaving the processed foods alone. Then my dietitians come in, they really build up a full plan for you. But so we talk about that, looking at what you need. Like, let's change the processed foods. Let's get more active. Let's leave the Pepsis alone. Because a lot of times I'll go into their rooms and there's Coke,
Lord, we got some Pepsi drinkers up in here.
And I'm like, well, that's not helping you.
Right.
Can I have juice in the morning? No. Is your sugar too low? No. So let's make that adjustment. Juice is there if the sugar's low, and then we'll define what
Orange
that
juice?
is. Orange juice only if your sugar's low. You don't need orange juice to jumpstart your day.
Yes,
You
yes.
need water.
I knew that, but I'm just saying.
I know.
Juice, yes.
You need water. So we'll talk about those things. But I always talk about the science. I always talk about checking your numbers. I talk about being active in your lifestyle, knowing when your sugar's high, when your sugar's low. And because when we put you on medications, things do change.
Right.
We talk about long-term complications.
Mm-hmm.
You can have a great life and be a diabetic. I've got plenty of diabetics I meet with the first day. We have a conversation. I check with them 90 days later. They're telling me, I'm in the gym 3 days a week. My A1C's at 5, and I'm doing fantastic. And and we consider them well controlled.
Okay.
Yeah, we consider them well controlled, and you don't need to see me. We just need to keep following up with you every 90 days.
Okay, well, I know, boy, this segment went by pretty quickly. We have to come back because I want to talk about, is it possible? We know that all things is possible with God. Can you come completely off the insulin or taking the pills, or can you really just say, hey, I'm not a diabetic, which we heard Dr. Michelle. But I also want to talk about how they affect you in the bedroom. So when we come back, we're going to take a quick break. And Marguerite, I'm Pastor Jeff.
I'm Mama E.
And we had Dr. Michelle on the set. And we're just going to take a quick break. And we come back with Marguerite Richards, diabetic educator. So we'll be right back.
The doctor that I have now, he's a great guy. He really is. The fact that the doctor gives me his cell phone number lets me know that he's accessible. Since I've joined, my health is improving quite a bit. My sugars are in control. I've lost a little weight. I'm doing well. What I like about it is the fact that everybody is so personable. The staff makes you feel so welcome when you come in. The staff treats me like I'm family. I've done a walk-in a couple of times. I've also called on the weekend and gotten good advice about what to do for emergency situations. So they're there for you. A lot of seniors don't have places to take care of them as the people here do. It's just a great experience.
More time with the grandkids.
Staying healthy.
Celebrating more happy birthdays.
Care Plus can help you make it happen. We've spent 20 years specializing in Medicare Advantage plans, and with our plans, you get benefits like a $75 reduction on your Medicare Part B premium every month with the Carefree plan, or a $0 copay for routine dental coverage, plus partial or complete dentures with the Care One plan. Plus a $0 copay for routine hearing and vision coverage. And a $40 monthly allowance for covered over-the-counter products. All from the third largest Medicare HMO plan in Florida. The Medicare annual enrollment period ends December 7th. Call today. So, what's your plan? At Care Plus, we've got plans for you.
This is Marlon.
This is Chanel.
Hey, I'm your boy, Pastor Jeff, and you are listening to JBV Radio.
Positive Radio.
Thank you for tuning in. Hey, welcome back to our segment. We're talking about diabetes, and we have the educator in the house, Marguerite Richards. I know we're throwing a lot of stuff at you at one time. You know, we also have Dr. Michelle, Brother Marlon, Mama E. We are here trying to learn and understand this thing called diabetes. But what I have, to my understanding, just to hear other people's testimony about they being diabetic, most men's that's usually dealing with diabetes and they are diabetic, it affects them in the bedroom. Let's talk about that. Is there, I want to talk about the red flags. Before you even go to the doctor, what are the red flags? Saying, hey, something is wrong with me, why I'm not performing in the bedroom, why my mouth tingling, or I'm always thirsty and I'm always urine, Come on, let's talk that.
Well, it sounds like you have done your homework. I love a well-informed consumer.
Well, I remember our last segment,
Yes, people are getting smart. That WebMD is something awesome. Those are signs of hyperglycemia or having high blood sugar. So typically, people will say, oh, I just started drinking a gallon of water. You never drunk a gallon of water before, the dry mouth, or if you're drinking a beverage, it tastes like metal. Typically, that's associated with men. But I have had a few women say, oh, it tastes like metal. I said, that's when your sugars are high. The other one that brings people in is the blurred vision. I just couldn't see well. And I always tell them, you didn't drive yourself to the hospital, did you? And they said, no. I said, thank goodness. The weight loss for men is really fast. Oh, I lost 60 pounds in 2 months. Really? What did you do? So we find that out. Or people who are really lethargic. They're sick for months. Yeah. I felt like I had the flu for 3 months. No one has the flu for 3 months. And that's when they come in. But typically that weight loss and just that fatigue will bring them in. And those are some of our signs, common signs. And of course, the frequent drinking and the increased urination. Those are real common signs. And this is something different. Mm-hmm. You may not want to know what the diagnosis is, but you need to come in so at least you can be empowered and we can educate you. And really, that's the biggest thing I tell people. When you're first diagnosed, seek education. Learn as much as you can. That allows you to own it. Yeah. And even when I talk to couples who are, and one of the partners is, newly diagnosed, I say, I'm not ignoring you to the other partner. I just need my patient to own this because it's their situation. I need you to support, but I need them to own it.
Well, I wanted to say thank you for freeing me. I have been feeling so guilty because I did not own it. The day that I was told that I was diabetic, I'm usually a very kind person, I think. That poor nurse, I need to find her and tell her I'm so sorry for how I misbehaved because I did feel like it was a death sentence. Mm-hmm. I was mad at God. I did. I told him, okay, I went through breast cancer. I was healed from aneurysm. I had some real major stuff, but nothing was as bad. And I think it was because I came in thinking how horrible this was going to be, And I think particularly for older people who've had 50, 60 years to eat anything they wanted to.
Oh, yes.
And then this little girl standing in front of me who's telling me now, well, you're going to have to change. So I didn't own it. But that didn't change anything, you know. No. Being mad at God didn't change anything. No. You know, he didn't say, oh, Stell, well, then in that case, you don't have to. Right. So that I've been sitting here thinking, oh, God, I'm so sorry that I acted like that. You know, and it is helpful to finally say, okay, I accept the fact that this has happened. Now what? You know, and speaking for my generation, the generation of baby boomers, yes. We don't like it, you know, but, you know, when you realize also that any number of things could have caused it, you take the guilt away. Right. You know, my husband said, you ate pans of brownies, all those apple pies you ate, and then you really feel guilty. Right. So it's really nice to hear that might not have had anything to do with it, you know. So okay, that's all I'm saying.
And I'm glad you brought up the blame game.
Yes.
You know, family members that don't eat that,
yes.
Don't do that. What I always ask them to do is listen. The first year is the learning curve. You're going to make mistakes. I just ask that you support them. You know that they're going to have great days where they've done everything right. Oh, they've checked their sugar, they've taken their meds, their meals were balanced, and then the next day they want a big old hoagie, you know. And you know what? Let them mess up, because even if you're on a diet, even if you're eating well all the time, every now and again we do want a brownie. Mm-hmm. I always say, get it out of your system. You know, get it out of your system. Don't eat the whole brownie, maybe a half, but get it out of your system and move on. Mm-hmm. You know, move on. But I always ask the family members, just support them. That's if you can make a suggestion, maybe I'm going to make baked chicken because I saw that you had a hoagie for lunch. I'm going to make baked chicken, and we're going to have some broiled vegetables. Just support them, but you don't need to be the food police, and you don't need to blame them, because this is a real struggle.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said that, because I have my father. He was diagnosed as a diabetic around the age that I am now, 48. He's 69 now, and I found myself being the food police. Like, he loves some Popeye's chicken. Mm-hmm. Sorry, Pops, if you're listening. I'll put you out there. But, you know, like, when I see him with some fried chicken, I'm like, Pops, come on, man, you know. But I didn't look at it from a standpoint that you just said. Don't be the food police. Sometimes he's going to have that craving. Let him have it. Just make sure he's not overdoing it. So I appreciate that.
So, like, the next day if you see it, like, no, Dad, you're not getting the leftover chicken.
Yeah. Put that leg down.
And and we always encourage, because people do want to eat out. And we tell you, we know you're going to eat out. And Popeyes has good chicken. But take the skin off. Dad, maybe you want to take the skin off. And then you slide a glass of water over there. Or you make sure, hey, let me get some vegetables for you. You know, if you're just going to have the chicken, I'm going to help a little bit.
Then slide the glass of water over.
Yeah.
So when the men is struggling, because you find more men struggling with it than women, if they have a problem performing.
Yeah. Yes, that's an ego thing. Yeah. So you make sure everything is in balance, because we don't just look at, you know, diabetes. I always tell my patients, how's your blood pressure? You know, cholesterol. Do you have all that in check? Let's get all of that in check. And let's make sure we manage our sugars. You're checking daily. You're checking those sugars daily. You're doing your meds. You're active. You may have to bring this up to your primary care doctor and see if there's additional resources that may be out there for you. But make sure everything's in check first.
Okay. Yeah. What some of the stuff that we definitely have to stay away from, without a doubt. You know, shadow of doubt, you know, you definitely, as a diabetic, run from them sodas.
That's it. That's it. You know, I'm looking at you, and I'm telling you, yeah, that's the first thing. You know, people love the sugar. Sugar is addictive, just like recreational drugs. They are addictive. So you have to think about that. But things that are like you said, processed, refined sugars, you have to avoid those things. I mean, we all love Oreo cookies, but you cannot sit down and eat
the double stuff?
No. I see that all the time, like, double stuff? Who does that? But, okay. Well, you have to stay away from those. Yeah. You want to say something?
Yeah, it's all about finding an alternative, because I live on, like, a keto lifestyle, lots of vegetables and fruits and proteins. That's how I eat. I don't eat sugar, and I don't have any problem with sugar anymore. I just don't want to eat crud, because it affects your body. There's a substitute for everything. You
That's
like fried chicken, there's low-carb breadcrumbs, there's nut crumbs. You can make a fantastic fried chicken. I feed it to people every day that stuff themselves on processed food and carbs, and they never know the difference.
That's right.
Instead of eating a potato or french fries, I make a rutabaga fry, and they're just as good.
Rutabaga.
Mm-hmm. And if I want to,
That sounds like a car.
it's a root vegetable.
It's a root.
It's a root vegetable.
Okay.
And the jicama and other ones, yeah. Okay. And you can make home fries out. You can make French fries out of it. There's desserts that I'll make desserts for my Bible study group, but I'll use alcohol sugars that have low glycemic indexes.
What kind of sugar?
Alcohol sugars. Like when I was a diabetic, there was saccharin, and that was about it, and equal. Now there's
Wait a minute, Dr. Michelle. So substituting sugar is not bad?
I don't like processed stuff, so I tend to eat a stevia erythritol blend that's a low glycemic index, and it's not as processed and crud. Now, I don't eat it all the time because I don't think any of it's good for you if you eat it all the time. But I can make you brownies, or I can make you fudge, or I can make you a cake, and I can make you cookies of anything you want. I can get stevia chocolate chips. You don't have to have a death sentence that says that you never get a chocolate chip cookie again.
Right.
You can make it with almond flour.
Yeah, you can do sugar substitutes, and that's really what you're looking at. Yeah, and there's lots of options. Like we say, we can still eat out.
So the sweet and low and all the stuff like that.
Well, see, I don't use Sweet and Low and Splenda very
Splenda,
much.
Those options are there, and there have been some complications and things like that, and that's why people tend to stay away from them. But you have to do your own research. We do promote stevia in my office, but we have no problem with.
And what is it again?
These are just sugar substitutes.
Stevia is a plant. I grow it in my garden. You can eat the leaves. It's delicious.
So you can go to a regular grocery store.
Oh yeah, they have it at Walmart. It's
so
great.
you don't have to go to a
was,
superstore.
No.
But speaking of superstores, there's a store online called Nutrition, which I shop on once a month. You can get low carb pastas. Last night we had mung bean and green soybean pasta, which is really good.
Green what?
I know. I buy vegetable pasta for my kids too.
You know what edamame is?
Mama eat, yeah.
All right.
Never go to my backyard and get some garlic.
And they have high fiber wheat, oat flour pastas. They have orzo rices that are very low carbs, between 3 and 8 carbs versus 48. So you have substitutes. I'm all about the cooking nutrition part of it. Right. Where she's the educator of nutrition, but people just need to be motivated. There's so many. You go to any store, there's keto recipes on every rack. You go online, there's thousands of recipes. You can make so many wonderful things. I make low-carb food for every Bible study group. They can't wait to see the next thing I make them. And I'm not feeding people that care about their nutrition.
Right. Come on, Mommy. I know you want to say something.
No, I'm learning. I'm learning because, once again, the obstacles that I ran into was because I tried and failed. I don't like the word fail. Right. I tried and it didn't give me the results that I thought.
That's good.
And so then I would come back and say, well, I gotta eat, and if the other stuff that I thought was good didn't work, then I'll just go back to what I used to eat. Sure. Now, one of the things that helped me was portion control. So that I found that I could be happy. I don't have to eat a pan of macaroni and cheese.
No buffet.
But if you give me a tablespoonful so that I can taste it. And so there were things that I did that helped me, even though I'm still not at my target yet. But I'm still believing God, and I'm open to some other alternatives.
Yes. Elbow macaroni, that's low carb, 4 grams of carb. Make your macaroni and cheese with that. It'll taste good.
Wow. Okay, so.
Yeah, and we have a lot of resources. That's one thing. My department does, we give out quite a few things you can find online, different websites. ADA, American Diabetes Association, is really wonderful. They will send you all kinds of things, recipes. You can go to their website and find recipes and activities, support groups. And that's really a big thing, finding a support group. Nothing worse than you're in this battle by yourself and you don't think that anyone else understands. And that's why we always say, hey, call us if you're struggling. If you're having a bad day, call us. The YMCA did have a support group at the Yates, it may be called Winston now, but the one in Riverside, they had a support group. So we used to encourage our people to go there because you do want to be with like-minded people.
Right. And when you're surrounded by people who can eat normally, you either feel like you are out there by yourself, you know, and you don't want to say I'm a diabetic because it sounds like, you know, you're a part of some, I don't know, some
secret group.
Yes.
Can I make one comment on what you say? Because I'm a counselor, it's all about your thinking skills. What's your definition of normal?
Yeah.
God made food, whole grain foods,
so we
vegetables,
can enjoy it.
fruits, meats, and we are the ones that processed it and ruined it for our health.
That's good.
So that's not normal.
Yes.
That's what we've done in America.
Right.
Okay,
That's
we
good.
got it on less than a minute, Marguerite. So before we close this segment out and until you come back with us in the near future next month, hopefully, in a couple of weeks, what would you like to say to our listening audience that's listening all over the world? What would you share with them?
If you're newly diagnosed, please don't blame yourself. There were a lot of factors and variables that went into it. Get with a very good certified diabetes educator, seek nutritional counseling, find a support group, stay in prayer, meditate, journal your feelings. The first year is a transition. If you're many years in the process, again, every day is a new journey. Journal, pray about it. You're not in the fight alone. There's a lot of us out here, diabetes educators, that were willing to help you. Just reach out to contact the American Diabetes Association.
Okay. Mommy, you got anything else to add to it?
I'm so glad that I was a part of, because I did for a very long time feel like this is hopeless.
Amen. Amen. Brother Marlon?
I think you hit on some very good points, but I think the most important part, especially for men, is to get checked.
So say that again.
Get checked. Go,
hey,
fellas,
drop that
go
pride,
to the doctor.
huh?
That's right.
Drop that. I know we run out of time, but when the men go to the doctor, should they have their spouse with them? Because I know some guys, like I'm already struggling with it. Well, I don't want my bride or my wife, you know, to be there with me when they telling me that I'm having a problem in the bedroom.
You're in this journey together. Ask, share your feelings with your loved one, and ask if she'd like to participate in the process. And then just make sure you're comfortable with her participating in the
and I
process.
think she should, because she won't beat him up thinking that, hey, it's not a physical thing, it's a medical thing.
Right.
Hey, man, come on, Dr. Michelle.
I just encourage people from the practical application. Don't feel sorry for yourself. Go out and find an alternative to anything that you love. You can make a food alternative that you will be satisfied with, and I can prove it to people.
Amen, amen. One thing I want you to touch on before we leave, Mommy said something earlier that she thought it was a death sentence.
Right. And that's the one thing I take off the table. I always tell people, if you're diagnosed as a diabetic, you're going to start thinking about everything you put in your temple. You're going to treat your temple like gold, as it is. This is.
So I don't have to lose a limb or a leg
No, absolutely
or
not.
toes.
When you understand, what do you start doing? You start educating yourself, right?
Amen.
Seeking wisdom. We've talked about that before. You have to learn all you can about this process. Get with people who have the knowledge. Yeah, there's no reason to lose a finger, a toe, lose your eyesight, go on dialysis. No reason. Educate yourself. There's a lot of information out there, good information, practical, evidence-based information. Find good people, find an educator, certified diabetes educator, and a nutritionist.
Amen, amen. That's Marguerite Richard, the diabetic educator. It's on the set with us, and I'm your boy, Pastor Jeff. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening to JBV Radio. It is Positive Radio. Until we get back on the air, just remember, love is the love until you give it away. We love you, and there's nothing you can do about it. God bless.